You were listening to episode 234 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games. We've recently picked up games we're currently playing, and we go nowhere fast in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
So I'll correct you there and say you didn't go anywhere fast. This week we played some Kinetica on the PlayStation 2.
Played is the word.
Dude, this is a game that it takes a while to kind of get used to. So, I kind of wish we had a little more time for you to get the hang of things, but it is kind of tough to get the handle of it right off the bat.
Yeah, it's a wonky racing game.
We will definitely be talking about that later on the episode. But first, you can find the Game Deflators on our out-of-date website, thegamedeflators.com. You can find us on social media at Game Deflators on Twitter, at The Game Deflators on Instagram and Facebook. You can, of course, find our videos on YouTube, as well as little shorts and other things that we're doing. And, of course, a podcast application you are listening to right now. Leave us a 5-star review and leave us a 5-star review on other podcast apps, too. We'd appreciate it. Okay. Our pickups this week. I actually got a copy of The Darkness 2 on PlayStation 3. It is a game that I've always wanted on PlayStation 3, and I just never picked it up for whatever reason. So it was like $15, complete in box. Came with a big poster, double-sided poster actually, manual, everything that's in there, even little comic book inserts. And yeah, looks nice. So I'm happy I got that. And then I also pre-ordered Chia on the PlayStation 5.
I've heard about this. People are pretty pumped about this game.
It's been out for a bit, and it's supposed to be like this 12 or 13 hour open world type game. And I saw previews for it a long time ago and was like, okay, that definitely catches my attention as a game I want to play. And it's $35 pre-order on Amazon for PS5. Like, that's not bad. So and it's linked to, whenever you look up Chia, it's like games recommended. It says Kina Bridge of Spirits. So I'm like, I loved Kina. And if this is a recommended title based off of that, then yeah, I'm going to enjoy this too. So we'll see. But it's got pretty good reviews overall. So I'm excited to get that started later in the year. As far as playing is concerned, I finally beat Cardia World of Fate. So New Games Resolution complete.
Very nice. Very nice. Way to go,
yeah.
John.
Yeah. So the game itself, Toxa's story, far better than Lacrima's story. Definitely enjoyed it. The overall gist of his story is he's a knight and he's protecting this druid that's a half elf that is, trying to raise a world tree because only druids can raise world trees. Her brother, on the other hand, is trying to destroy both the elf world and the human world by combining Eden, which is, I think, what we had talked about a while back. Eden coming down and these guys trying to summon it. Well, it turns out that this evil, mad half-elf is the one that was trying to summon Eden. And he's a bitch. Like, he is so hard to beat. The battle was insane to complete the game. Almost didn't win in that one. And, the story, like the way that it closes out, I'm not going to, spoil anything for anybody, but the way it closes out it's nice. Like, it definitely flowed the right way. Like, I played it the right way, I feel. And, if by starting with Lacrima's story, it really gave me that like outside perspective on what was happening. And like,
did it give you the choice at the beginning of who to play, or do you have to play Lacrima first?
It gives you the choice of who you want to play in the beginning. Okay. So I chose right, I feel. So if you ever decide to play this game, you want to play Lacrima first and then play Toxa, because just the way that the story flows, you get this outside perspective on what's happening from like the human side of things. And you don't really hear anything about the half-elf side of the story. And then when you play Toxa, you get all of that like nitty gritty back end details that you're not privy to initially. And so it really just kind of closes the loop on a lot of stuff. And honestly, like, there's certain characters that you wonder, like, where the hell did they go? Like, why are they not involved in this battle? And it's because like they snuck off and they happen to be in this battle with Toxa's group. And, they're on this back end as like this secret, really just kind of secret, what would you say? warrior, I guess you would say, on the back end. So it's cool. I definitely enjoyed it for the most part with the story. The battling, not so much. I've mentioned countless times, is just not very good from a tactical RPG standpoint. I'm just not a big fan. So I do think this is in the realm of like a 6 out of 10 for me. But I'm happy I played it. It's an RPG knocked off the list and on to the next game, which is Rain on Your Parade. So there's a boss battle, Ryan.
Yeah.
There is a boss battle. So the boss battle, so obviously we talked about the game a few weeks back, and you have these tasks and you rain on things and all that. Well, you can actually get lightning now, so I can now strike,
Oh, okay.
which catches things on fire. So like if you take the oil trail and you spin it around and then you light it on fire with the lightning, it spreads everywhere. It's great. So there's that. But the boss battle was pretty cool. So there's like this anti-cloud generating machine that's off in the distance, and you have to weave your way through homing missiles or targeted missiles. So if you get in their line of sight, they shoot missiles. So the idea is you have to keep all of your water, not get hit by missiles, while dodging them all, and then going ahead and destroying this like anti-rain generator, basically.
Mm,
And so I want to say that the name of the boss was Dr. Dry Socket. I want to say it was
nice.
his name. I gotta double, or no, Dr. Dry Spell. It was Dry Spell.
Okay.
That was pretty funny. And then what
Have
was
you
the
found the cat on the map yet?
No, I have not found the cat. I'm looking. I'm trying to find the cat and I haven't found him yet. So I probably blazed through like, I don't know, 10 or 12 levels last night overall, like just in an hour. So it's nice. It's a quick 3 hour game, apparently.
Did you get
Uh,
any like secret objectives and stuff like we had done?
yeah, there was one thing that it was on a building and I blew it up with lightning and it gave me like a mask of some sort.
Oh,
So
cool.
there's some pretty cool stuff like that. There was a forest that I completely burned down, which was nice. Like it was like, oh, light the turn out the campfires in the forest and light the tents on fire and rain on all the people. I was like, okay. And I accidentally hit one of the trees of lightning and I'm like progressing through the level. And the next thing you know, I look, I'm like, well, shit, the whole forest is burned down. It was great. And then there was actually, it was pretty funny. So, Grandpa Gandalf Cloud came out at some point and he's talking to, Cuddly Cloud. And he pretty much says, all right. And this is before you get the lightning. And he's like, okay, so you can get certain powers like lightning. And the way to get lightning is with cloud bucks. And cloud bucks cost. And he's like, oh, I'm just kidding. There's no microtransactions in this game. To
Nice.
unlock things, you simply play the game. And I'm like, nice. So it was pretty funny. There was a frog that said that he's been playing his Nintendo Switch for since it got released, which is pretty funny. So there's a lot of little quirky bits of dialogue from the different characters that we didn't really get on the initial playthrough because it just wasn't there yet. But it's pretty cool. I'm definitely enjoying the game so far, and I will continue playing until it's done.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a great choice of a game for them, and it definitely was a lot of fun when we played it. So I am glad to see that you are further enjoying it, and I can't wait to see you get that patch.
Uh, yeah, that's if I can find a damn cat.
You'll find it, I'm
We'll
sure.
we'll have to. All right, man. What did you pick up?
So, for me, I picked up Redfall this week. Woo! Via Game Pass, thank goodness. So that saved me $70. Did you know this is the first Xbox $70 game?
Is it?
Unfortunately,
What a choice.
yeah. So, I mean, everybody's pretty much aware of the Redfall controversy. We'll talk about a couple articles with mentions of it today. Um, I guess I'll just keep talking about it right now and then I'll go into the other stuff. So, yeah, I watched one review before I actually played the game. I watched Mr. Matty Plays do his review, and his was pretty harsh. Like, he was telling you just not even to play it, like even if you have Game Pass, like don't even
Not even to
download it.
play it?
Yeah.
Holy, even with Game Pass? Holy crap, dude. I guess
Yeah.
in his mind, was it more so like don't download it, don't play it to show a displeasure with the game itself and to not support something like this?
I mean, just basically he was saying that, there are better things to do on Game Pass than play this game. like as an alternative to this game, there are better choices that you could do with your free time.
That's harsh, dude.
Yeah. So I preloaded the game before I was all excited for it to come out. You know, me and my wife, we loved Prey when we played that a few years ago. I've never played Dishonored or anything, but like I know that those have rave reviews, and I'd love
And
to go play them sometime myself.
rightfully so. I'll have to loan you the PS4 Dishonored
Oh,
that I
they're
have.
on Game Pass.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's
right.
one of the
Arcane
things he
Studios.
was saying. So like, you know, while there are better titles on Game Pass, why would you, you know, play this?
Yeah.
And I played it twice. I sat down, I played it in two different settings for like 30 minutes each. And man, it's just right off the bat, just not great in all the ways that they say it isn't great. And I got all of that in like the hour or so that I experienced from it. Like I basically, you know, I didn't have a boss fight. I didn't go into like too many like missions or anything, but like the things that I did and the things that I saw were enough to tell the story as much as you really needed to be told. Like there just isn't a lot of anything going for this game. Like right off the bat, the opening like scene, like you're kind of in this cool scenario, like you're at this like harbor and all the water is like crashed up like around you, kind of like Moses parting the sea style, frozen in time. And you're trying to get like up to the shore, and there's like some cultist people on a boat that are trying to get you to turn yourself over to them, um or like give yourself up to the vampire because they need to like give people to the vampires or whatever. But ultimately this whole big area has like six guys with guns that will aim at you for like 3 or 4 seconds before they even decide to take a shot. um have like no like real engagement or anything. Like it's just not, the amount of enemies and the interaction with the enemies is so poor and apparent off the bat that from what everybody says about the rest of the game and how it carries through, it makes me not even want to play the rest of the game because I know it's going to be just this boring the whole time and never get better in most of the ways. Like there are things in this game that are just like beyond the technical issues and beyond what are, you know, the choices that they made that just make it feel soulless in the modern era. Like there's no cutscenes in the game. The cutscenes are like, oh, here's some stick figures talking. Like they're not literal stick figures. I think I haven't even seen like one of these cutscenes myself, I don't think yet. But like it looks like it's like maybe like a blue glowing like nervous system with like a head or something, and like they're like interacting for the cutscene and you're watching it. But like
Oh,
that's it. There's like audio logs that you can't walk away from. Like you can't take the audio log with you and keep playing. You have to stand in the room where you triggered it and wait for it to finish before you can keep playing the game. There's like all of the things that you would consider to be cutscenes for the game are just like in-game asset still shots with like a blue tone over them that just slideshow.
hmm.
Like most of the missions are just like fetch quests. You can run across the map for minutes without running into any enemies to engage with. Like it's just really poor old decision making that went into this game that just like compared to like what I have played and what they're known for, it's just such a huge disappointment.
So, did you come across any like crazy glitches or anything?
No, not in my time. I like I said, I really only played it for like maybe an hour or so. And that was enough for me to just be satisfied. And I've listened to, you know, like 5 or 6 different reviews from different people and different websites, and they all say the same thing. And it's just like, I mean, as picky as I am with games, like, you know me, I jump from game to game. I don't even finish games that I love. Like, there's nothing here captivating me or making me want to stick around. Like, I've played games like if I wanted to play a game with like picking up loot guns, I would go play more Borderlands 3. I mean, that game has like a horrible story and annoying characters, but like at least they're like characters and cutscenes. Like it actually has, the elements of a triple A game. And I got that for $6 used a month ago
Well, this
or
was
two.
this was double A, Ryan. It wasn't to the you know standard of a triple A. So all right, I got to ask you here: if you had to play Redfall or The Devil's Third, which one are you playing? You're forced to play one of them. Which one are you playing through?
I mean, I guess probably Redfall because it's only like 12 hours.
I think Devil's Third is less.
Yeah, but it's probably better.
It's probably better than Devil's Third.
It's probably better.
All right, all right. What else did you play this week?
That's really it. Oh wait, no. Ghostwire Tokyo. My wife's been playing more of that. Actually, she feels so confident now she doesn't even need me for the big fights. They grow up so
Nice.
fast.
By the way, Devil's Third is 8 hours.
Okay, yeah.
So
Maybe. I don't know.
It might be worse, but
Might be a toss-up.
Might be a toss. If you heard it here, folks, Devil's Third is at least worth a Redfall playthrough. All right.
I've been watching ESL Berlin. That's some Dota 2. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I don't think I talked about it. My friend got me into watching StarCraft Brood War, the Korean tournaments, but casted by these two American guys. So I did notice that ESL 1 Berlin was coming up for Dota 2 tournaments. And I hadn't really talked about Dota or watched Dota in a while. They made some huge changes, which are crazy. So, like, they made the map bigger and they made Roshan move and they changed like a whole bunch of things. And, like, as far as like patches and updates, like, this seems like it's really changed the game in a lot of ways. So, I've been like, as somebody who doesn't play the game and only watches the tournaments and then really only watches the major tournaments, sometimes like I still very much trying to put together like what's different now, but I really do like the changes and the players seem to. There's been a bunch of big shifts in teams and dynamics since I last watched, so that's been a lot of fun. Actually, I think the finals are today. And then let's see, I'm just preparing my body for Friday. Next time you hear my voice, I will have played Tears of the Kingdom, and I will tell you how many tears were shed in that kingdom. I still have only finished like half of Breath of the Wild, so we'll see if I make it further or as far or how to even measure progress in Tears of the Kingdom. But I'm super stoked and really ready for that to come out.
Whenever you beat Pikmin, you should have a secondary New Games resolution of Breath of the Wild.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Like Breath of the Wild is like, it's a great game, but the whole time I played Breath of the Wild, I was like, oh my God, this is such a fantastic base. Like, I can't wait to see what they build off of and do next. I just didn't think it was going to take 7 years.
Gotcha.
For them to get there.
Then you're like, it's too late, Nintendo.
Well, I was expecting like, I think we all were like kind of expecting some really interesting, like, Majora's Mask type situation where like 1 or 2 years later we'd get like basically an asset flip of the game, but like totally off the walls with new mechanics and stuff introduced.
Yeah.
And we're getting that, but like just on a whole different level than what we thought of, and many, many years later.
Gotcha. Well, let's move into our discussion topic. So, I shit all over the Mario movie a while back, and it was easily not my favorite film of the year. But I'll tell you what was a great film: the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, it is totally worth it. See, here's where I can tell the difference between Nintendo fanboys and a good movie, right? With Mario getting that 96 that I say is undeserved because critics are giving it 59. Critics gave Dungeons and Dragons like a 90. And you've got normal moviegoers giving it like a 93. that right there is synergy amongst critics and fans to say things were done right. It isn't a biased opinion from a certain group. That's all I'll say on that. So you pretty much have the story of Edgin, who is essentially a bard slash planner. That's what he's called. And Holga, who is a barbarian. And it pretty much goes into their story as to why they don't have Edgin's daughter and like what's happening with that. And it delves into this whole thing of like their D&D group got caught trying to steal like a certain item and leading them to get captured, put in prison, and they escape prison at the very beginning. And then it's their whole adventure on like what happens next, right? And so it just has all of the makings of like as we were watching it, I'm like, damn, this would be a D&D campaign easily to play. And there were so many cool things. Like, I will tell you, the one big Easter egg that I flipped out on, by the way, was when Thunderchard, the red dragon, was in the movie. You remember Thunderchard?
Yeah.
Yeah, from your campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I about lost it. I was like, it's Thunder Thighs, because I remember he was described as like this super fat dragon that couldn't move. And dude, portrayed to that to the full extent. It was fantastic when they were in the Underdark and he came out. I was like, this is the best. It honestly, while I was watching the movie, like every detail that you could think of, like how a bard acts, how a barbarian acts, how a sorcerer would act, how a wizard would act, how a thief would act, like all of these different characters, it's exactly how they would act typically. Like they got that part down, and the dialogue that was happening, it felt like I was at the table, you know, with these players playing these characters like in this movie. So it was all great, man. Like all of the little finer, like fun details, like different creatures and monsters and all of that. Like it was great. There were certain things that you would be like, okay, you can't do that in D&D. Like they have a druid, and a druid like changes forms like 4 times in the span of like 10 minutes.
Well, so like, I mean,
but that makes sense for a movie.
D&D is the rules approximate of the fantasy for balance, and a movie should be unbound and play purely by the rule of cool and not be bound to like its rules as hard.
So what's funny is, as we were watching, my wife counted up the number of times that she B-shaped, and she's like, huh, well, she must be level 20, because you normally can't do that till you're level 20. And I'm like, well, I guess that works.
By the end of the movie, they leveled up.
Yeah, it was just cool. And oh my God, dude, the paladin, totally paladin. It was just so funny, man, to hear the dialogue and the little jokes that are cracked. Like I'll tell you, there's a scene where they have a magic item that'll allow them to talk to corpses by asking them 5 questions. And so they go to like dig up all like, dude, hundreds of graves. They dig them up to try and find an answer to something. And so they'll ask, you know, whatever amount of questions. And the corpse will be like, well, that was 3 questions. I need 2 more questions. He's like, okay, what's your favorite color? Okay, what's your favorite food? And then the corpse collapses. But what's great is they go to this one corpse and he's like, all right, well, you got to ask me more questions. I don't want to sit here. And they're like, okay, well, what's your favorite book? And he's like, well, there's just so many to choose from. And he just starts listing all of these different books, and he just won't stop. And then they're like, all right, we're good. And they start walking away. And after he names one, he's like, that was only the 4th question. And he's like, shit, as he's sitting there in his coffin and he can't move because he's just a corpse.
Yeah.
So it was a fun movie. I highly recommend it. Like everything that I've mentioned, I wouldn't say is necessarily spoiler. It's just some of the fun things in there.
Yeah.
There is a great plot twist that's tied to it. You know, it's kind of evident like what the end result is going to be at first, actually. And it's the one thing I didn't like, though, is I feel like they could make a sequel to this and like keep going with these characters and make a whole nother adventure. But they didn't exactly, I guess it's a good thing. They didn't exactly like end the movie on a note where you're like, oh man, I can't wait for the second movie. But that's kind of good, because if it failed, then you don't want to have that cliffhanger like you had with Aragon so many years ago, where you're like, oh cool, like there should be another movie, but it was such a bad movie, it's not going to happen. So it was kind of nice that they did drop it off like that, where you're not questioning if there's a sequel. but it did so well, it's gonna have a sequel. There's no way you can't, like, the success of this film, there's no way you can't make a second one.
Yeah. So you think that it'll be more like a direct sequel? Because I mean, that's the thing that I had wondered with D&D as a franchise. And I had heard people talk about this. Like, Mario is a character and a place, and it's all very specific. And it may change from game to game, but like Mario is very much its thing. And like D&D kind of is in a way too, like, it has many of the same themes and everything that carry throughout it, but like D&D is like an experience that you do, and movies are typically about characters. So it's like D&D has a vast legacy of fiction to draw from. Like there could have been like this could have been a Drixt movie. Like, that's ultimately probably where people would think like, okay, if they're going to make a D&D movie, they'd probably make a Drixt movie. But instead they went in this other direction where they're like, let's just do a D&D adventure, not necessarily like one of the canonical ones that we've made for like the 5e setting or something like that, but let's make an adventure movie, throw some, high profile people in there and just let it like do its thing and show off D&D. And like, is the excitement of D&D itself enough to just carry a film or carry a franchise? So like, are these characters compelling enough, or was this movie compelling enough in the sense that you would watch like Dungeons and Dragons, the Waterdeep heist or whatever, and it just stars a whole different set of characters but is like still D&D, and people eventually start to be like, oh hey, that dude used Big B's hand because he's also a sorcerer or whatever the hell,
Yeah,
wizard.
the movie itself was, the characters were very compelling, and the movie itself was carried on nicely. But I think if you were to do a sequel of this film, I don't think you can go about saying, "Oh, well, D&D is good enough that we could bring in a whole slate of other characters to carry this film." No, I think that if you're going to do a sequel, you have to have these exact same actors portraying the same characters and have a new adventure that they go out on.
Okay.
Similar to what you would see with like Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like, Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a reason that it's three movies, right? That they've got with the same characters. Obviously, it's comic book related, and you kind of have to stick with those characters. But could you have other characters in a Guardians type of film? Sure. Is it going to be as good? No, because you don't have Rocket Raccoon, you don't have Star Lord, you don't have all these other characters that really make it compelling, right? So the D&D movie has those characters. It has, this was honestly Dungeons and Dragons meets Guardians of the Galaxy for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really the best way to put it. Like, I really enjoyed this film, and the characters are really what kind of make it happen. Because the
Mm-hmm.
story is a D&D story. I mean, it's an adventure. Shit's going to happen. Things are going to go crazy. And that's the beauty of D&D, is you can have like a general kind of plot line, but it can deviate in so many different ways based on how the characters interact with their surroundings, and
Yeah.
how they chat with other folks and whatnot. And the movie definitely portrays that nicely. So I think you could have the same characters go into a totally new adventure with those same characters, meet new friends and or friends and foes, and still have a great film. I don't, or it could be the opposite. It could be that they captured, lightning in a bottle this go around, and then they just jack up the next film and it sucks. I mean, you never know. But I think based on the great reviews it's seeing, if they stuck to the same type of formula and just inserted, characters in with plot twist, plot line B, then you would still have a great film, as long as they kind of maintained a lot of that D&D influence, like the different enemies and the little bits of information, like they had mentioned at one point, water deep in other areas. So you really got a good feel what's happening. And like Neverwinter, for example, you have like Lord Neverember, the
Mm-hmm.
Lord of Neverwinter. Like, he's mentioned on countless times in the game or in the movie. Um, so yeah, I mean, as long as they stick to the source material kind of nicely for that like background, and kind of have characters with a new plot, I think it'll be fine for like another
Okay.
film. Yeah, I liked it. It was good. You should go see it.
Yeah.
Actually, if you don't see it in theaters, Amazon Prime has it. I think to purchase right now for like $25, which would be the cost of going to the movie anyways. So just heads up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's dive into some articles. We've got Redfall developer gets mocked for the game's terrible launch by Shamir Safaraz at Xputer. I thought I had her name. I don't know if you've got it up in front of you, but I will.
Sadie Boyd.
Yeah, Sadie Boyd. So basically, she is Redfall's environmental artist, and she came out to say how she's been mocked on just about everything tied to this game. So I'll just read a couple of the tweets here. She said, I did not anticipate my own peers, friends, or colleagues openly mocked and being gleeful of a difficult launch. Delighting in the failure of others, no matter how you feel towards the company, seems mean spirited. I'm sad, confused, and disappointed. And let's see, she had another one here that said, Redfall is my first game that I've worked on from start to finish as an environment artist. It's insane our baby's finally out there. It took lots of blood. Did I mention blood? Can't wait for you guys to see it. So she mentions that, but if you look into the tweets, it's people absolutely slamming this game and just like saying really as much mean stuff as they can to this developer. So the other component, I think you've got it noted here, so I won't call it out, but really a little bit of background that's kind of coming to light now regarding Microsoft and their thoughts on this game before launch. So Ryan, I'll let you dive into your notes there because I don't want to steal your thunder.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, this is not a good thing. I mean, Redfall's launch was bad. I was just talking about how bad, the game is earlier, and I haven't played all the way through it, but I mean, you can't slam the people making the game after and, come at them personally. That's not right. Like, if somebody puts that much time and work into something so complicated, it's no one person's fault, the aftermath, and you should never, pile on or harass people online. That's just not anything that can be supported. We can't condone that kind of behavior. But I mean, this was a pretty big disappointing game. People are going to talk about it online, and people are going to definitely let you know how they feel. Rumors abound, but I mean, from what they say in this article here, recent rumors have suggested that Microsoft evidently had no faith in Redfall after coming into the picture. I hadn't really heard that peddled as justification or a talking point or anything yet up to this point outside of this article, but I think that
It's like your mic tried to attack you.
yeah, my hand was on the other side of the mic boom and I launched it into my face.
I just saw it launch in your face. I'm like, what happened there?
Ghost attack. Redfall come at me. No, but like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I could totally see Microsoft having, come into the picture. Redfall's like already in development and they're like, oh my God, this just does not look great to us. It looks like you guys have a lot of work left to do on this. We're going to build up a schedule around it. Just get it out in time and we'll just get you guys onto the next project after that. Like, that seems pretty reasonable to me as what could have happened. It lets Xbox kind of have their conversation. Like, we'll talk next about, Phil Spencer talking about Redfall and everything, but like, they were really kind of trying to play the cards of like, hey, this was on Arcane and their studio. Like, yes, we're in charge and we're going to take responsibility, but ultimately this was way too far in. There was nothing we could have done to influence or impact or change it. And no amount of delaying this 3 months would have really had any meaningful impact. Like, if they delayed it for 3 months, maybe it would have launched with like the 60 FPS performance mode and still had no cutscenes or anything important or anything meaningful that like that studio does and puts into its games and is why people appreciate them. Like, all of that still wouldn't have been there. So like, ultimately at the end of the day, we just need to move past this and towards the future for Arcane, and we'll see what that means for them and Xbox, I guess.
Here's what's really disappointing for me though, is like when I first saw a trailer for Redfall, I was like, man, this game looks awesome. Like, I really want to play it because it was hyped up.
Yeah.
So if these rumors are true, Microsoft really had no faith in this, right? Then why the hell would you hype it up as much as you have as like this top Xbox title that's coming out and like all these great things
Make
around
it
it.
your first $70 game.
Yeah, like if that's the case. So it's, is it a matter of Microsoft not having faith with this initially and saying, "Hey, let's just get out the door?" Or is this Microsoft just lowering their standards on the type of product that they're going to continue putting on the market? And if that's the case, then something like this Activision Blizzard acquisition, we shouldn't want this to happen. Like, yeah, Activision doesn't have the best games or the best like track record, but do you really want to see a lot of those titles just rushed and thrown out there to be able to get more and more games on Game Pass just to get them out there?
Yeah.
I don't, and I don't think anybody really should want that. And this is supposed to be a first party, high profile title for them.
Yeah.
And it got jacked up. So, yeah, I don't think Microsoft is honestly to be trusted on a lot of these games. And, I don't think we need to dive too much more into this particular article. I think we can kind of transition to the next one,
Yeah.
which is, Phil Spencer says we're not in the industry of out counseling or out consoling Sony or out consoling Nintendo. And this is Brendan Sinclair at Game Industry Biz. But I'll read the full quote here. I had it pulled up just beforehand, or I guess I won't because I must have closed it out. So do you have it on you right now? And I can dive into it separate. Oh, here it is. I found it. Okay, so let's see. He said, there isn't really a great solution or win for us, and I know that it'll upset a ton of people, but the truth of the matter is, when you're in third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, a very discreet focus on doing deals and other things that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team, that's on us, not on anybody else. And then he goes to further pretty much say that, like, they lost the generation of the Xbox One. And he said the idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't relate to the reality of most people. So basically saying that, all of these people have already bought a PlayStation and a Nintendo. If you release one good game, you're not going to get them all to come over to your console. So that to me means, we're just in a business of releasing games. We're going to put games out. We've lost the console war. You know, that's pretty much the end of it, right? Like, there's no coming back from where we're at right now at the Series X and S. Nintendo and Sony have already kind of taken this. We're just going to try and focus on putting out good games. But Redfall is pretty evident of a game that was supposed to be good, and they're not even doing that right. You can't even release your consoles right. You can't get momentum in the market, and then you're releasing crap games. So, I mean, what does that say about Xbox moving forward?
Yeah. So this is all in reference. Phil Spencer appeared on the Kind of Funny XCast uh, publication this week. And he talked a lot about, the disappointments with Redfall and where Microsoft is and, what they're kind of expecting, as well as, this information here. But, they're definitely not doing well, and they're being out there about it and saying, hey, we're having some struggles with, Redfall did not release in a state that we wanted it to release in, admitting that they're in third place in the console wars and that it's not going well and that they really lost the last generation. And the biggest reason for losing that, and how that might be setting them back, is just that now that people have digital libraries built up on other consoles, it makes it that much harder to leave that ecosystem. And that's why just doing one good game on Xbox isn't going to get somebody to sell their PlayStation 5, because they've got years of PlayStation Plus, digital receipts hoarded up that they, can cash in and play those when they feel like it. And Game Pass is a really good offering, but it doesn't take over that supplanted list of games that aren't specifically probably going to be available on Game Pass. Like, they're likely only going to be available on that platform for them and for free, because they already cashed in that token earlier when it was up for bat. So that makes it difficult. But at the same time, like, he said in this same interview, but not in this exact article that we're referencing here, that they're gonna release some 60, in the ratings games, and they're gonna release some 80s in the ratings games, and hopefully some hundreds in the ratings games, but that's just the odds of being a big publisher. And obviously they're not in the business of trying to release those types of games. But like, in all honesty, you've got to look at making those games and trying to make good ones and getting a full lineup and getting people to come to your console, because like having this pity party attitude about it, like as more realistic as it is, it's going to keep you exactly where you're at. And if you don't want to be the dominant console maker, you're not going to get there by, oh yeah, we bought this studio and this game just wasn't, really up to snuff, so we just had them like push it out. Okay, yeah, well, you did the same thing, like,
with
your
Halo.
yeah, Halo was such a bad release, and that was, like, your flagship. This is another, like, flagship title, your first $70 game, and that looks bad now. Everybody's super worried about
Starfield.
Starfield, and I don't know how much he said about Starfield in this, or if they brought it up really, but, if that doesn't go well, this is going to be like 2 bad years in a row for Xbox. Meanwhile, Sony's out there breaking records. Nintendo's breaking records and about to launch a new console, which is probably going to, light the world on fire again. So, like, they really need to get their stuff together. Like, I love having my Series S and Game Pass, and it gets me through a lot. With how much games I'm able to just like play on there, and I have zero complaints about it. But I mean, I have zero faith in Xbox as like a provider to like keep those experiences. I'm relying on the deals that they're cutting with other studios and putting stuff on there, not the first party stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and you'd made a point there, like, they're not always going to release banger games, right? They're going to have games that are in the 60s and the 80s, hope to have some in the hundreds, but Sony is consistently releasing games in like the 90 plus score range, right? It's very few and far between that you have anything that goes below that like 90 threshold that's a first party title. So, it kind of shows you Sony's commitment to releasing high quality games that are going to be a true experience, whereas Microsoft is really diving into the whole realm of, well, Ubisoft and frankly Activision and EA of, let's just push it out into the market, make our money, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But if you're at the same time trying to win a console war, you're not going to with that type of attitude, like you said.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, I mean, I'm, I will consistently say it again, unless there is another console. I think this is the last Xbox. The writing is on the wall. I mean, we read the article, I think it was last week, where we talked about it, where Microsoft is not happy with the Xbox division, or at least that's the rumor.
Yeah.
And now you have him coming out saying, we're not in the business of out consoling Sony and Nintendo. And, we're just trying to push out great games. And then you have this focus on Game Pass. I really do think that's it for the Xbox, man. Like, after this, it's a lackluster set of sales. Can you really see Microsoft putting more effort towards development of new consoles when realistically they could focus on PC and releasing these games on all consoles moving forward?
Yeah.
They're going to
Well,
I think they'll make more money that way.
yeah. And I mean, proof's in the pudding. I mean, Sony is kind of doubling down on that effort. Actually, in our next article by Kenneth Shepard at Kotaku, PlayStation shuts down Concrete Genie dev amidst continued pivot to prestige. So, they're further trying to say, hey, we want more God of War titles. We want more Last of Us titles. We want more big blockbuster, move some PlayStations, push Xbox out of the way. Thanks for your cute little painting game. Now come make something bigger.
Yeah, and I was a little disappointed by this because I actually really liked Concrete Genie.
Yeah, I figured you would
Um,
have something to say on this one.
yeah, it's a little disappointing to see that studio. So it's a Pixel Opus as a studio that was shut
Opus.
down, or Pixel Opus. Yeah, Opus, Opus, same thing, right? I was thinking Opolis, like Metropolis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Pixel Opus. Yeah, so Concrete Genie was a lot of fun. I think they only have like 2 games that they released as a studio, and it's only about 20 employees. So, I mean, it's not like they're closing down this like huge studio. It's 20 employees, haven't really released much outside of Concrete Genie. They had them working on some sort of project, but that is likely shut down or maybe transitioned to another team within the Sony studios. So, it's disappointing, but I do appreciate Sony's approach to this, right? Hey, you guys aren't making the type of stuff that we need to sell to move consoles. We're going to shut it down and we're going to move on to bigger and better projects. And I can definitely appreciate that because if it was Microsoft, oh, that's a great game. Well, you have a year to finish it, hope it's done by then and
Yeah.
then just get it out, So I'm happy with that in a sense. It sucks that these people potentially lost their jobs. Some of them, maybe some of them moved on to other positions within Sony. But yeah,
I mean,
so
they just acquired those other two studios. I know one of them was like Firewatch or something,
yeah,
or Firewalk, and I don't know what the other studio was, but like, they're picking up new devs that haven't even published games and closing, a studio that's published a couple games that were smaller, but hopefully, between those moves that they're making, they're positioning people into key places to make good things and move forward. Whereas, Xbox kind of has had this hands-off approach where they're just kind of letting, them do what they want to do. I think that Sony,
well,
we'll
Sony
see more
Sony does
fruit.
too. Like Insomniac can do their own thing. They're kind of hands off of Insomniac for the most part.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. Sorry to interrupt you on that,
No,
but
no, you're
yeah,
fine.
yeah. I mean, Sony is a little hands off of some of those bigger developers that they have because they can be, but something like this, no. I mean, you definitely have a smaller group like this. You kind of have to be a little more hands on of what's occurring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Next segment here is our inflation deflation segment, and this was Kinetica on PS2. So I'll do the quick, plot,
Yeah.
all that, and Ryan will dive into the rest of the complete in box and all that good stuff. So developed by Sony Santa Monica Studios, it was published by Sony Computer Entertainment. Produced by Shannon Studstill and released October of 2001. Geez, I'm like in the 20s already. And it is a racing game, reception of a 7 out of 8. So the plot is the absolute merging of man and cycle technology has arrived. They are called kinetic skins. Scientifically advanced exoskeletons are fused with humans to allow them to harness unbelievable speed and incredible agility. They can adhere to any surface and use anti-gravity maneuvers for stunts that would normally be impossible. Use this incredible advantage to perform insane stunts and draft behind opponents to enhance the skin's speed. Prepare for racing in a world of Kinetica. Take it away, Ryan.
Yeah. So this is a really hard and dumb racing game. I don't know why, like, whenever they're like, all right, we need a racing game, but we need to make it different. How do we make racing different? I don't know, let's put tricks in there. They do tricks while they race, and that will, once they do tricks, they could go faster again. Okay, cool. That's every extra mechanic added onto a racing game that isn't guns. It's guns or tricks. This is a trick racing game, and I had no idea how to get the tricks to work well. Like, the analog sticks weren't working. The like turning is so hard. The speeds are like seemingly really fast, but it seems like it takes forever to go around a lap. There was so much about this game that was just like, I was not about. I tried like 3 or 4 different characters. They all controlled differently terrible. And it was a rough time.
Do you know why they do the tricks?
Because it's scientifically advanced exoskeletons with anti-gravity maneuvers.
It's to build up the kinetic energy to be
Mm.
able to boost. So you use kinetic energy to enhance your boosting.
Gotcha.
That's why you get the tricks. Yeah. So I'm with you to an extent. All right. When this game first came out, I was like, this is trash. But my brother was constantly playing it. And he was really good at this game. And I was like, well, screw that. I got to be really good at it too. So I started playing more to a point where I could beat him. And as I got better at the game, I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good. I think it is a 7 out of 8. I think it's tough at first to get used to it. The controls are very wonky. But as you start unlocking more and more characters, the controls for those individual characters get better. The tricks come easier. So I think that's part of it. It's more so the learning of the game beforehand is really what gets you. And this is a double joystick game, which kind of sucks in a way. So, you move forward with the right joystick and then you do your tricks and stuff, or you turn and stuff with the joystick and then you move your tricks and stuff with the left. Like you turn in circles and all that while you're up in the air. So, control wise, it's a little wonky, but it is what it is, right? There's not much you can do. I still enjoyed it, even though I finished in like sixth place. I know I only finished fifth. You finished sixth both times, or all times that we played, not both.
Yeah, basically. This was one of those games, like I'd seen this game before at a GameStop. This is one of those box art that sticks out in my mind of being like, I've seen this game 100 times and probably looked at it, and every time I looked at it, been like, why am I even looking at this? I would never buy this, and
I
then
think
put
it's
it
pretty
back.
cool. I like the box art. I think it's cool. And I've got the double manual version too. That
Oh
has a little
yeah,
art, has a
it
little
came
art
with
book in
2
it.
manuals.
Only some did, actually. Not all of them did. So I got lucky when I bought my copy. It's got the art book that comes with it, little art manual. So yeah, I can tell you didn't really like this game.
Yeah,
That's
I
fine,
mean,
right?
racing games have just never really been like my genre anyways, and then when you try to like make them go too fast and then you've got to do other stuff and the controls aren't great, I'm just like, I'm out. This is not the way I like to play game.
Yeah, the speed of this game is definitely something different from racing. It's almost along the lines of like Jet Moto in a way.
Yeah.
Like Jet Moto's got that really fast pace. Like if you miss your turn, you're screwed. This is kind of the same. Like if you miss your turn, you're going backwards and it constantly repeats to you wrong way, like constantly until you make it the right way. Um, so yeah, I can totally get your view on this. I do think with a little more time messing with this, you would start to enjoy it further,
Hmm.
or really enjoy it, not
Well, it's
further.
like
'Cause-
any game, you've got to invest the time to
Mm,
get over the hump, and we don't really always have the time to do that here,
no, no.
or the desire. So, it's just it's one of those things. But I mean, when we look down at this game, break it down to brass tacks, we got a complete in-box price these days of about $11.63. That peaked at $13.95 back in May of 2022. That is currently trending down. Loose, that'll run you $7.70. That peaked at $12 back in June 2014. That's also trending down currently. So I mean, you can get this game pretty reasonable, pretty easily. Are there better racing games out there? For sure. Should you probably buy those instead? Yes. Uh,
What would
that's what
you?
I have to say. I would say it's just right.
You say it's just right at 1163. Okay. I mean,
If
yeah,
you like niche racing games that are weird and you can grow to appreciate over time, I mean, spending like $12 on one, that seems pretty reasonable to me.
yeah.
It's definitely got I don't know, certain things going for it. You seem to like it, I guess.
I mean, 7 to 8 people out of 10 enjoy it.
Hmm.
So
Is that
here's
what
the
that
thing.
means?
No,
Is
no,
that what
it's
a
just
7 or 8 out of 10 means? 7 to 8 out of 10 people enjoy it.
I'm just screwing around with you.
7 out of 8 doctors recommend Kinetica.
For your kinetic energy needs. So look, I mean, we play enough of these games to the equivalent of like what a demo would be traditionally, which
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
like that we go that direction. So, I think it deserves a little more time to learn because it is a racing game. Racing games just aren't like it's not like any other type of game. Like if you're jumping into a platformer, you can jump into a platformer, right? It's typically going to be similar, right? But if you jump into a racing game, there's a lot of different things to consider in terms of track development and speed and certain controls and racing types. It's kind of weird. So I would say for me, if I saw this game at $10, I'd pounce on it right away. If it was $15, I'd say leave it. So 12, just right. Yeah, I think we could stick to that.
Perfect.
That sounds about right. Um, okay. So next week is Mother's Day. So I know we're not recording in person. I don't know what we're planning yet. We might release our snowboarding episode, in middle of May, because why not, right? Um, or we could record virtually. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, my friend.
That's true. So maybe you and I can record on like Saturday.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Or Friday night. We'll figure it out. Yeah. But we do have to figure out a game for next week. I'm thinking something on Super Nintendo might be okay.
Okay. We'll figure it out.
Uniracers Part 2.
Oh God. Not more weird racing games with tricks in them, John. I just got done saying that.
That's true. I did hit you of Uniracers, now this, and I don't know, maybe I'll find another racing game that's pretty bad.
Wait, this one has 2 wheels. Is there a 3-wheel racer? Like big wheel racing or something?
Technically, this was 4 wheels because each arm acts as a wheel.
I'm looking at the cover. They're motorcycle people.
How many legs and arms do people have?
Yeah, but they hold the wheel in between their legs and their hands.
Like an ab roller.
So it's like wheel.
Yeah, but it splits. How do you think they do the tricks with both hands and legs split up?
I just figured the wheel would be in the palm of the one when they separate.
No, they got 4 wheels, dude. And then they can put it together, certain racers. But no, they split them. It's 4 wheels. So what you're saying is we need to find a tricycle racer.
Yeah. Is there a big wheel game?
There is actually a big wheel truck racing game. How about this? Let's play another racing game, but we could play Top Gear. No? You don't want to play Top Gear?
I don't know what Top Gear is.
Top Gear has like some of the best music on the Super Nintendo. Track racing wise.
Okay. I guess we'll check it out.
It is actually one of my favorite racing games. Like I really do enjoy it. So, okay, let's play Top Gear. That'll be fun. And then after Mother's Day, when we record in person, we can play that fishing game.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to mark that down. Like, hound me on that when you get here. Like, I want to play Sega Dreamcast saltwater fishing.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been episode 234 of Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.